Chris, when you saw this HD VersaBox for the first time yesterday, do you remember what you said?
I don't remember what I said, but I know the feeling. So
what was the feeling?
Like, whoa, that's awesome, or whoa, that's really heavy duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the exact word, but it was something like, man, that's beefy, or man, that looks well built. And that is the exact impression I was going for, and what I want all of our customers to see too when this shows up. This is our heavy duty. This is the prototype, but it's a copy of our standard duty VersaBox, the 48/60 inch. Heavy duty version, 72 and 84 inch. And the impression I want from a video or seeing it on our website is, man, that's a great idea. And when it shows up in your driveway, at your house, at your farm, when you get it off the truck, I want you to say, wow, that thing is built like a tank. That's what I was going for, not cutting any corners with this design. Let's tell you all about this product here. One of my favorite things I've ever created. This took a while to nail the design and get it to be where we wanted it to be. But once we kind of hammered out the standard duty, we knew we could use that same template for the heavy duty, just make it out of thicker materials, extra support where needed, and that's what you're looking at here. So while this is a prototype, we don't expect or envision any changes. We're gonna get this right into production. Proof of concept, I guess, of the HD version of it, and that's what you're looking at here. So when we go through features, they're gonna apply to both. There's gonna be, like, material thickness is about one of the only changes in overall weight, but you're still gonna have the same features on the swing gate and the tube construction here and the A-frame and the runners and all the other kind of stuff. Let's talk about sizing really quick. So the 4-foot model is gonna be for subcompact tractors or very small compacts, right? Like a John Deere 2025R, you could use a 4-foot on. You wanna match up the width of the, generally speaking, start out matching up the width of your tractor with the width of the attachment. And something like a box blade or the VersaBox or a land plane or a tiller, you don't want it to be any narrower. You want to cover your tire tracks, and it's okay if you're slightly bigger, all right? But you don't want to be smaller. And normally the sizing for the horsepower ratings and the ranges work out well for that. 60 inch is made for, you could probably put that on a 2025R, but that's the smallest, right? You know, it's really designed for like a John Deere 2032R, Kubota LX series, a Coyote CK series, kind of the smaller compact range, all right? Now you could use those into something like a John Deere 3033R, which is 5 foot wide and, you know, 31 or 32 horsepower. But you could also probably get into the 72 inch. That would be about the low end of the model size that you want to use a 72 inch on. That's kind of why I recommend personally going at least in a range of tractors. Let's just say the John Deere 3E series tractors. You have the 3025E, the 3032E, the 3038E. Yep, the 3025E is the cheapest one. It's the lowest horsepower, and it's gonna get a lot of jobs done, the same loader capacity. But there's gonna be times when you really wanna have more horsepower to maybe pull a bigger tiller or get more power to the ground and pull a bigger tool behind it, like a box blade or the VersaBox. And so that's where I think going at least middle of the range, like the 3032E or the 3038E, is better off for a lot of folks. But there's a trade-off. There's opinions that can be justified for any of those models. In this case, the more horsepower, the better. This is a perfect setup. This is a Kubota L4060 with the 72 inch HD. It's just slightly wider. This tractor's about 67 or 68 inches wide, and so 72 inches just sits just outside it. It's not gonna have a single issue pulling this and getting great performance out of the tool. And you could also use this on the 4 Series tractors, like a John Deere 4044R would be a great fit, but those tractors are a full 72 inches wide, and you're gonna easily be able to use the 84 inch wide version of this. And that's what I would recommend all the way through all of the compact tractors. We thought about making a 96 inch, but through our long history of selling attachments, the 96 inch is such a small volume of units sold that it just, unless you guys have a lot of demand for a 96 inch, even when we released our 48 and 60 inch standard duty, you guys were clamoring for the 72, and a few people talked about an 84. I don't recall a comment saying I want a 96 inch version. So we don't have one right now. We could in the future, but they're incredibly expensive to ship. They're gonna be the most expensive version that we have, and the market size isn't isn't justifiable at the moment unless you guys tell us otherwise.
And this was probably another common sense thing, but it's not the weight of the attachment, even though it does get very heavy. It's that you're filling it with a volume of very heavy stuff. So
Yeah.
you need to push it where you want to.
Yep.
And that it's just hard. If you've never moved soil or rocks, it's hard to grasp how heavy that stuff is.
Yeah.
But you will hear it in your tractor when that box plate is full.
Yeah, and so if you put too big of a tool on your machine, I wish I would have had it on video, but I don't. One time I tried putting because I had one, a 5 foot, so just 60 inches land plane on a John Deere 1025R, and it loaded up with so much material, even though it kind of filters through the back, so much material that it stuck it in place. It didn't stall it out, but it just no longer would move forward, and it would just sit there and those back tires would dig a hole in the ground. So that's either going to happen or you're going to stall the machine out if it's just too much material.
I think we did stall the Summit. I think we tried a 60-inch land plane.
Oh, okay. I think, being conservative, don't go any larger than you need to, because it makes you less efficient. It makes it more frustrating. It makes you want to not continue the job. It's going to take things longer versus if you have a tool that's really the right size that you can just, I don't want to say speed along, but just cruise right on along and get your job done efficiently and effectively without any hiccups, versus constantly having to feather the 3-point control up and down, or if you have a hydraulic top link, you're constantly working that to make sure you're not overloading it, because you're hearing your engine bog down. You're like, okay, I need to slow down a little bit, or I need to raise things up slightly so it's not holding as much material. It just takes a lot more operator awareness and control. And that's fine for some people, but I think for most folks, it's better off just don't go too big, get the right size. We offer a worry-free guarantee that if you email us and take our written recommendation, that we promise it's going to work for you. No questions asked, because that's all we do. We've helped tens of thousands of customers do that same thing, and we take a lot of pride in making sure that you're set up and you're spending your hard-earned money the right way the first time around. Folks, we are proud to be sponsored by RimGuard Solutions, a liquid ballast weight. It goes right inside your tires, completely hidden. Not only is it going to help with safety, keeping those rear tires planted on the ground, it helps with loader efficiency and traction too. The benefits of RimGuard include being the heaviest all-natural liquid ballast weight on the market. It's not going to corrode your rims like the old calcium chloride. It's not going to freeze, and it's available at over 1,000 dealers nationwide. Find the dealer near you at rimguardsolutions.com. All right, so this tool is meant to solve a problem that customers have been dealing with for ages, right? So I've dealt with it myself. Everybody deals with it. Do I get a box blade or do I get a land plane? Because a land plane is amazing at grading out driveways. I don't think there's really anything better. It's just an amazing tool for that. While a box blade has more versatility to really help with landscaping and general grading, you know, if you're working with soil or rough materials. And then of course you want to have the shanks, the rippers, the scarifiers, okay, on there as well. That way you can get through potholes and hard pan and break it up if you need to. We took our time developing this to give you an all-in-one solution so that you no longer need to grapple with which tool do I get. You can get one tool which compares pretty darn close to getting a box blade or a land plane. You can get just this one tool that does both, does them equally as well, save a lot of space, save a lot of money, and just feel like you made a smart decision. At least that's what I think. And this is available only through our website, tractortools.com, the home of Good Works Tractors. We don't have a dealer network, so you can just go right to our website. If you don't know what size you need, what model, whether it's the VersaBox or any other tool for your tractor, just let us know. We want to help get you set up the right way the first time around, and we ship nationwide, so we can help you out no matter what state you're in. Again, just reach out, let us know. First thing you're going to see is we have this hooked up to our Category 1 Fast Cat Quick Hitch. So these are quick hitch compatible. All right, the standard duty, the 48 and the 60 inch, are going to be only Cat 1 compatible, while the heavy duty 72 and 84 inch are going to be Cat 1 and Cat 2 compatible. You don't have to use it with a quick hitch. You can of course just hook it right up to your 3-point hitch as well. You're going to see the mounting point of your lower links. This is called a clevis style hookup. It's a lot stronger. Okay, you have steel on both sides, steel strapping, heavy duty, thick steel on both sides of your pins to really allow for additional support. You'll see a lot of, I don't want to disparage anyone else, but there's going to be a cheaper design that's just a pin here sticking out the side without any additional support. It can be, it can result in a lower cost to you, so you save a little bit of money that way, but we didn't want to cut corners on a critical area that is supporting the entire unit. Moving up from that into the middle, again, another area that we thought about was having some wider, thicker strapping on our A-frame here, all right? Instead of just a thin strap, you'll see a lot of lower end box blades and land planes just have a strap like this up here as well, and we wanted this to be thick, beefy, rigid for solid support and structure.
Same thing over here.
Yep, same exact thing. Moving along, another decision we had to make was the cross tube, or the cross bracing, where the scarifiers, the shanks, the rippers mount into. All right, so again, this is the more expensive way to do it. All right, so we didn't want to cut any corners here either. You're going to see other companies out there have a flat strap, two flat straps, a double row basically, a flat strap on top and a flat strap on the bottom with the cutouts that these go through. This is open here. There's no sidewalls. It's not a square tube. It's just flat strapping that goes all the way across. Cheaper. You save some weight, you save some cost, you get a lower end price to the customer. But again, we want this thing to last forever, stand the test of time, and felt this was the right way to go. Okay, if we talk about the sidewalls coming back here, there's going to be a difference. All right, that's a thickness difference in the steel. And if you want to get, I don't expect you to retain all the information from the video, but if you want to get full specs, we have all that detail within the listing on our website, so you can easily go there, reference it all, and have an idea of what you're looking at. We'll have tractor size ranges on there too for what we recommend for each size of the tool, and that goes for everything we sell. If you take a look down here, something that I wanted to make sure that this took a little bit more time actually than it would appear, but these skid runners, you're going to see they're a mirror image. All right, that way you're never going to wear out the back end here. The front end, this front corner, is really going to be the part that takes the abuse and the wear. And so when you wear this out, same thing on the other side, you can flip-flop it, crisscross them on the other side, and then this will become the front corner over there, and vice versa on this point here. That way you can get double the life out of a set of skid runners. Generally speaking, you need the skid runners when you're going to use them with a land plane. When you're going to use it as a box blade, you can leave them on or you can take them right off. A box blade generally is going to, you want it to dig down a bit more. And with a land plane, you want it to ride on top a bit more. And so you have all the settings. You can pop these off, not use them. You can adjust them up and down. We gave all these different bolt patterns here for the skid runners. That way you can fine tune it. Not that we think you're going to mess with it all the time, but we wanted to give the opportunity, the flexibility. That way individual unique circumstances have more adjustability when they need it. And the same thing goes for this forward cutting edge. All right, this angled cutting edge up front, that's what really helps in the land plane mode. All right, and the higher end land planes that you look at out there have an adjustable position cutting edge, and so we wanted to make sure that that feature was included as well. And so again, for most folks, you're going to find that setting that works for you, and you're not going to have to move it over and over, but that setting could be different for different individuals, and so we wanted to give that flexibility.
So yeah, angle blade is for land plane mode, but does that mean if you're going the box blade mode, you should be taking the blade out?
You don't have to. I've used it in box blade mode, and it doesn't matter. It's right in there. I mean, you know, it's going to put a little bit more resistance on the machine. So, you know, if you notice that, you know, maybe you're struggling under load, that could be why. You could always just raise the front end up a hair to get that from cutting if you need to, but I haven't noticed that being detrimental at all, even if you're going in reverse, you know, because the rear blade back here with the box blade backing up is taking most of the load. So I would leave it in. If you have a long-term plan for box blade mode, you know, you could always pop it out and just store this cutting edge if you want to, and then put it back in when you're going to grade your driveway in the spring or the fall. That's totally up to you. And again, all these are easy bolt-in designs. That's the idea behind it, is flexibility within one tool. But I leave it in for box blade mode unless you know, really felt a restriction or a problem because of it. But so far, no issues here. And we've sold a pile of the 48s and 60 inches. No negative feedback along those lines either. Okay, moving on. Now you're going to see, again, same beefy strapping running front to back to give structure and support. Same deal on our standard duty as well, but you're going to notice a difference. There's some holes that are mounted in these, or cut into these straps, and you can see why. This is going to be a hose support just for storage to keep the hoses off the ground when they're not in use, and they can mount on either side if you want to, but on the bottom side of that bracket is a little place to route those hoses through so they stay out of the way. I've always loved, and you don't really see it too often on, you know, like compact tractor equipment, but construction equipment oftentimes has like hose keepers or hose tamers. And so I love that idea, and I wanted to make sure we included something along those lines to help keep hoses in place and out of harm's way. But tied into that is going to be an optional, okay, you don't have to get it, hydraulic cylinder, hydraulic setup to open and close the tailgate. And so if you plan on having a lot of maybe fine grading applications, you know, where you want to really control the filter, or maybe you want to keep it closed and pull a bunch of material to a certain location in your landscaping project and then slowly release it out, well, you have infinite control with the hydraulic version, or stick with the manual version. You're going to save some money that way. You can always add it on. It's just a bolt-on kit, holes everywhere you need it, with carriage bolts just to bolt it in place. Add it on down the road if you want to. And then you'll see you have, this is the same open position. So that's with a hydraulic kit, that's the open position. With the manual version, it just fully opens and then pins in place fully up and out of the way. So I want to point out these holes that are in those side plates, and these are for if you have the manual setup without the hydraulic tailgate, you're going to have some fixed positions here that you can put it to kind of filter material. If you don't want it fully wide open and you want to have a little bit more control over it, then you can put it in these other positions here, or put it in the fully closed position and lock it in place right down there. And I would say you don't have to, but if you have a long-term use, again, in box blade mode, even if you have the hydraulic cylinder, I would still probably pin it in place down here. Just from a, what would I call it? I'd say maybe just protecting the hydraulic cylinder and extending its life for as long as possible. Why not just put all the pressure on a pin here to hold it versus relying on the hydraulic cylinder to be constantly working to keep that load in place? So that would be my suggestion. Not a requirement, but just a suggestion. Another square tube on the back, okay, or rectangular tube, I should say, on the back side there. What are we missing, Chris?
The rear two blades.
Oh, yep. And so then to make it the box blade, okay, that's going to be your rear two blades. You have the forward and the rear facing back blades. And that's going to be just like any box blade, okay? Cutting edges are the same as any box blade or any land plane. They're pretty standard. If you go away from the standard ones, it's really hard to get them. It's long lead times. It's crazy extra expense for it. So the nice thing about that is, you know, sometimes you can get them at Tractor Supply or wherever too if you need to get a replacement. And of course, we can sell them, and we sell them along if you want to get a backup. You know, whether you want to back up cutting edges, skid runners, shanks, you can get all those backups from us at the time of purchase or down the road as well.
And just to not assume that the viewer even knows about a box blade, There's two, because you close the tailgate and then you're trapping material as you drive forward or cutting and pulling material. But it's the second one facing backwards is if you close the tailgate and you drive in reverse and you kind of doze.
Yeah,
material.
that's the beauty of a box blade is you can work it in both directions. With a land plane, you're really just pulling forward.
Which is why the middle angle blade only has the forward facing blade.
Exactly, yep. And then of course the tailgate, which I think is fairly explanatory. You know, we put a couple of handholds on here so you can just more easily kind of hold it and not pinch your fingers underneath this edge when you're trying to pin it in place down below. So the overall depth, that one took a little figuring out as well, because a land plane is longer or deeper, you know, front to back, compared to a box blade that's a bit more compact. And so we went in between those two numbers and found a sweet spot where it allowed material to run over the front edge and not kind of clog up, right? It can run over the front edge and then still run over the back edge, all right? And generally speaking with a land plane, it's gonna run over the front edge and then pile up a bit and then slowly start to filter over. That's kind of what you're looking for. In land plane mode, you really wanna have dry material, and you can't do it in like a yard that has a bunch of, say you tilled your lawn up and are like, I'm gonna run a land plane over that, or even a box blade. It's very hard with a bunch of chopped up organic material, whether that's grasses or weed clumps. You know, if you think about it, it's just, that's not gonna flow, right? If you wanna get those out of your yard, a box blade is gonna clump it up and drag them out, but you're gonna drag a lot of topsoil with that. It's best probably to get a rake or a dethatcher and get all those clumps out. So box blades and land planes really work best without organic material if you're looking to save the topsoil, you know, or stick with gravel and make sure it's dry. If you have wet material, that's clumpy too. You got to think flow, all right? You want the material to flow, and wet material, organic material, they don't flow. They're inconsistent. You need consistency out of it. That was long-winded. Something I want to point out too, okay? Scarifiers, we put 6 on the heavy duty, all right? We think it fit well in there. On the standard duty, we put 4 on both the 48-inch and the 60-inch models. And sometimes you are going to see 5 scarifiers on the 60-inch, but we thought 4 was a better fit. 5 felt like it was too cramped in there. And I want to point out as well that most land planes that are 48 inches do not have scarifiers at all. It's one of those things I've asked every manufacturer that makes them that I've worked with or thought about working with, why don't you put shanks in your 4-foot land plane? Because that's the number one thing customers ask about, is why are there not scarifiers, you know, the rippers in there? Well, our 48-inch is gonna have those rippers, it's gonna have those shanks. There just wasn't a reason not to put them on there. The 4-foot box blade, every manufacturer that makes a 4-foot box blade has the shanks. Land planes, nope. There's no good reason for that.
I have one last question, and I presume the answer is yes.
Okay.
You're carrying in front of the VersaBox a little bit of extra weight.
Yeah.
And a land plane, again, because it's not meant to cut deep, probably not as important. The weight of the VersaBox is sufficient. But wouldn't you think that's actually a good thing to think about if you're using it in box blade mode, to add extra weight on your 3-point?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. So we've talked about our hitch hanger setup here. One of the benefits of it is it can put down pressure on a tool when you need it. And I have them on here. I just didn't take them off because that's the nice thing about these, is you can leave them on and it's extra ballast weight out of the way at all times, which is fantastic. And you can put a tool on, and so you're safer and it's good to go. But part of the design consideration for this particular tool, the VersaBox, was we didn't want it to be light. We wanted it to be heavy anyway. And so more weight can help a lot. It can also hinder. You could hang some suitcase weights on the side if you wanted to as well. But yeah, I'd say that's application dependent. You know, if you think maybe your circumstances call for as much digging kind of force and that you can get out of it, then maybe add the weights and put things in your favor. But our
got
goal,
the scarifiers on there, you got hard pan.
Yeah.
Throw the weights on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And on the point of the scarifiers though, I'm just picturing that in my head. You know, when we were using it recently for a project on that guy, you're tipping this thing forward. You're leaning it forward to try to get those points as low as they'll go into the ground. So that's just an operating tip for you guys. When you get this and you're like, I got to fix my potholes, rip through those things until you can't tell there was ever a pothole there, but get this thing tilted forward and then just come at it and just keep going. So the first pass or two, sometimes you might think, oh, that looks pretty good, but just keep going because potholes have a way of coming back. So you want to obliterate those things and then level this guy back out, put it into land plane mode or box blade mode, whatever you want, and smooth from there. There you go, folks. TractorTools.com. That's the place to go to get the VersaBox. Any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We are happy to help. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to stop by, and until next time, stay safe. We'll see you soon.